Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku for May 27th, 2024. There's a link in the description if you'd like to try the puzzle yourself in the same Sudoku pad software that I do. And I'm going to get started right now. All right, so just some initial terminology to make sure we're on the same page. These are cells. There's 81 of them in the grid. We have a 9 by 9 grid of cells. Every cell will end up with a digit in it, just like some of these that are given. We call these given digits. And then we'll also be placing digits in the grid between 1 and 9. Now, there are restrictions on how we place the digits, and that's what makes Sudoku a puzzle. First of all, we have rows. That's a horizontal line of cells. We have columns, which is a vertical line of cells. And we have these 3 by 3 boxes, which are bold outlined. So not all 3 by 3 areas are boxes, but the ones that are boxes have bold outlines. Now, there's 9 of each. There's 9 rows, there's 9 columns, and there's 9 boxes. In each row, column, and box, we're going to be placing the digits 1 to 9 exactly once each. So in every row, column, and box, we won't be omitting any digit and we won't be repeating any digit. So for example, I cannot place a 9 here. You'll see the software does trivial conflict checking here, where it's saying, hey, you already placed a 9 in this row, so you've made a mistake somewhere. It's not necessarily saying that comparing against the solution, it's just saying, hey, well, there's 2 9s there, so that something's wrong. All right. And that is an option in the settings. If you want to turn it on and off, it is called the conflict checker. I have it on classic Sudoku. And then I also have check pencil marks on. So if I were to pencil mark a 9, it would show up in red as well. Okay. So there is only one solution to the puzzle using the givens that were given. That's the point of the givens, is that it does make it a unique puzzle. And because of the way the givens are arranged in this specific puzzle and any puzzle you encounter, there is going to be exactly one way to fill out each cell. So there is going to be a correct digit for every cell and no other digit belongs there. And we have to logically figure out which digits belong in which cells. And we can do so using techniques that I'll go over in this walkthrough for our medium. All right, so with that all out of the way, 2 more words I want you to learn. We have band, which is a row of 3 boxes, and stack, which is a column of 3 boxes. There's nothing specific in the rules about bands and stacks, but they are quite useful structures to talk about. So let's think about a band. How many of each digit are we expecting to find in a band? And hopefully the answer is obvious, but if not, I'll prove it to you in a few different ways. There are 3 of each digit in a band. One way to prove that is the band is made up of 3 rows. And since each row has 1 of each digit, 3 rows in total have 3 of each digit. The band is also made up of 3 boxes. And because each box has 1 of each digit, and there are 3 boxes, there's 3 of each digit. Luckily, those agree with each other. All right. And so as a result, say we find 2 out of the 3 digits are already placed in the box, either as a givens or placed, like these 2 3s here. Where is our third 3? Well, we know we need a 3 in each row, and this row already have a 3. So the 3 is going to have to end up in this row somewhere. I'll make that green. We also need a 3 in each box, and this box already have a 3, so we're going to need a 3 in this box. I'll make that purple. So if we're going to place 1 more 3 in this band, and it needs to satisfy both green and purple, it has to go in one of the green-purple cells. So we can't put it in any of these cells. And so we end up with 3 cells that can be 3. We're down to just these 3 cells. And that's always going to be true. If you have 2 out of the 3, there's going to be 3 cells maximum that can have that 3. And in fact, if you look, this column already has a 3 in it. So we can't put a 3 here either. So we end up with a 3 only in these 2 cells. I'm going to prove that in another way that's a little bit more convenient for scanning. Scanning is just looking through the grid for things, right? Just a fancy way of saying that. Or maybe not so fancy, but I think it's a pretty apt word. But what we can do is we can say this box does not have a 3 in it yet, so it needs one. Where can it go? Well, this 3 says not in this row, this 3 says not in this row, and this 3 says not in this column. So we end up with the same result. These 2 cells need to have, one of them needs to be a 3. We know exactly one of these 2 cells will be a 3. We cannot omit the 3 from them. And so we can't just guess. I mean, we could, but we're going to be wrong 50% of the time. There's no good way right now to determine which of these ends up 3. And so instead of just guessing and placing one, we don't want to be guessing. If we're going to place a digit, we want to be 100% sure that we have solid logic that proves that that cell can only be that digit. And so we aren't there yet with threes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the notation system provided by SudokuPad. There's two notation systems. There is the corner mark and the center mark. I'm going to use the corner mark mode to say that 3 is in one of these two cells. And corner marks are always going to be box-centric markings. So this means that within this box, we have reduced the 3 to this list of cells, the ones that the corner mark 3s are in. And you can see that that's true. The 3 must end up in one of these two cells. We don't know which yet, but this corner mark will remind us of that. And that's what we're always going to use corner marks to mean. All right, well, now we want to find all of the repeated digits in this band, not just the 3s. And so I recommend a systematic way of searching for that. Really, all we have to do is compare box 1 against box 2, box 1 against box 3, and box 2 against box 3. So we can start in any box we want, and I would recommend starting in a box with the fewest givens. So in this case, we have 3 givens in this box. So we just remember 4, 6, 7. Just keep 4, 6, 7 in your head, and look for 4, 6, 7 in this box and 4, 6, 7 in this box. And I see we have a 6 and a 7. So we'll take them one at a time. So we have these two 6s. They look into this box. This is not a 6 because there's a 3 in there. So 6 ends up in one of these two cells. We also have the 7. So these two 7s look in here. We look down here. We see we have this 7 helping out here. This 7 doesn't really help because the 5 is already there, but you could use that as well. And now there's only one place in this box for a 7. Now that is what we call a hidden single. And we can place the 7. Whenever you get a single, you can place that digit. Now hidden, this word means that we're dealing with a row, column, or box. So in this case, we're dealing with a box. And we're dealing with the 9 cells in that box. And we're saying there's only a single cell that can be a value. So that's why it's hidden single. We want like a full way of saying it. We could say that we found a hidden single 7 in box 2. The 7 being the digit and box 2 being the saying we're finding it in a box. And it is the second box. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just left to right, top to bottom. So this is box 2, and we found a hidden single 7 in box 2, which we could place because it's a single. Because that is the only cell in the box that can be 7. So it must be 7. All right, so we took care of the 6 and 7. 4 did not have a buddy over here. Now we've done this comparison and this comparison. Now we just have to do this comparison. These two against each other. So I recommend starting with the one with fewest givens again, 3, 7, 8. And you can see that the 7 we already took care of. So if you remember that you already did 7, you can ignore that and just do 3, 8. And we took care of 3s earlier, but this is when we would have done it at this point. And that's it. Those are the repeated digits. Now, before you move on to the next band, I recommend looking for 2 more things that sometimes appear and sometimes don't. One is filled box rows. Now, a box row is just a fancy way of saying a row within a box. It's just a convenient way of saying that. So this is a box row, this is a box row, this is a box row. A filled one would be where we know what all 3 digits are in that box row. So in this case, we know what 2 digits are, 6 and 9. We don't know what the 3rd digit is yet. So that doesn't count. So we don't have any of those in this band. Next thing to look for is rows, columns, or boxes that have been reduced to 4 or fewer open cells. So for example, this row has 5 open cells. Another way to think about it is it has 5 or more placed digits in it, right? But so this box has 4 open cells. So let's take a look at this box. What I want you to do is think about how, because there are 5 digits placed and 4 not placed, the 4 not placed go in the 4 open cells. Hopefully that's clear. And we know which ones they are because they're the ones that are not listed here. So they are the 1, 2, 4, and 8. And I want you to be looking around at all of the boxes that look into here for 1s, 2s, 4s, and 8s. So for example, I'm seeing this 8 looking in. And that 8 is going to actually reduce 8 to 2 places in this box. Now, whenever we're reduced to 2 places in the box, we always can corner mark it. That's always safe to corner mark, and I recommend doing so. If you're reduced to 3 places in a box, I recommend only doing it if we're all in the same row or all in the same column. But in this case, we do want to mark these 8s. What else did I say? I said 1, 2, it was 1, 2, 4, 8. Hopefully that's the ones I said. But yeah, so we have this 1 looking up here. And that does put a 1 in one of these 2 cells. Now, this does something called pointing. What we've done here is we've corner marked a digit into 2 cells in this box, and both cells are in the same column, column 4 here. And so this box is going to need one of these cells to be a 1, and whichever one becomes a 1, these cells are going to see it. They're not going to be able to repeat the 1 in the column. So as a result, most importantly, these two cells are not 1, which we didn't know before. And then whenever we get something like pointing or pairs or triples, my recommendation is to skip ahead and just mark that real quick so you don't forget when you scan later. And so these can't be 1, and this one looks down. And so 1 ends up in one of these 3 cells, and we are going to corner mark that a little bit early, just to make sure we remember that when we get around to it. All right, so we have the 1, 8. We also have the 2 and the 4. I don't see any 2s looking in, but we do have this 4 looking in. 4 is in one of these 3, but that's not super helpful. But there's another thing that I want to talk about, which is that some of these cells are highly restricted. What I mean by that is, for example, let's look at this cell. In the solution to the puzzle, what are the digits that could still go in this cell? Now, if we just pay attention to the cell itself, we apply normal Sudoku rules, right? I'm going to mark this green. It can't be 1 because there's a 1 in the column. It can't be 3. It can't be 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So the only 2 digits I didn't mention are the 2 and the 4. And so it would be nice to remember that in the solution, this cell, it will only be a 2 or a 4. And so we're going to use center marks to remember that. And center marks are going to be a cell-centric marking that just remind us that we have reduced this cell to some small number of possible candidates. We call them candidates for the solution. So in our solution, if we were to look at the solution to this puzzle, the one solution there is, this cell will be a 2 or a 4 guaranteed. We don't know which, but it'll be one of them. And so whenever a cell is reduced to 3 or fewer, I recommend marking it. And then you'll get an instinct later for which ones are worth marking and not. But honestly, if you just mark 3 and fewer, you'll have a good time for a long time. And then you'll figure out what style you like once you've solved a bunch of puzzles. All right, so this cell is down to 1, 2, 4 because it can't be 8. So we can mark that. This cell is down to 2 and 8 only because it can't be 1 and 4. Now this could be any of 1, 2, 4, 8. So we are not going to mark that right now because that's 4 digits. We don't want to mark that. All right, so that was the advantage of looking at rows, columns, boxes with 4 or fewer. We don't have any more in this band, and this didn't give us any information that's helpful to continue with the band. So what we do is we move on to the next band. We start with this 2. There are no 2s in these 2. Easy. We have 5, 7, and 8. Only the 7 is duplicated, so these 7s look in. This 7 looks down. 7 is in one of these 2. We corner mark that. So that's it for the repeated digits. Sometimes you find no repeated digits. Sometimes there's a few, sometimes there's a lot. You never know. But we also do have a filled box row. So remember, we want to look for that before we continue. Now this filled box row is going to do something special because what we want to do is we want to look at the 2 rows in the 2 boxes that this isn't in. So the 2 rows it's not in the 2 boxes it's not in. We don't care about empty cells. We don't care about digits that are already placed in the box. But we do see we have this 5 and this 8. We're going to take them one at a time. What does this 5 do to this box? Well, it takes 5 out of these 3 cells. And we know this box needs a 5. We can also see that this 1, 4, 7 here it means that these cannot be 5. It's almost as if we had a 5 over here, taking 5 out of these 3 cells. And I'm about to prove that we do have a 5 over here. But we'll prove it first. So none of these can be 5. We do happen to have this 5 up here helping as well. So we can actually corner mark 5s in one of these 2 cells. And this is going to point, just like we have these 1s pointing, these 5s point. This is always going to happen when you find this. These 5s point, and so these can't be 5 anymore. Why can't these be 5? Well, because this box needs a 5, and it's going to be here or here. Exactly one of these cells will be a 5. And so no matter which one ends up a 5, whether this is 5 or this is 5, these cannot be 5. That's called pointing, because if you kind of line these up, draw a line there and did an arrowhead both ways, it would be pointing at the rest of the row saying you can't be 5 because I need to be 5. So if these aren't 5 and this 5 looks in saying these aren't 5, then 5 does end up down here. And that's always going to happen in this situation. That's why it's useful to look at it. Now, if you notice, this can't be 5, and we also have this 5 here taking 5 out of here. So actually, we have a hidden single 5 in this box. We can place it. Very, very nice. So this is the 5 that butted up with this 5 to cause these. Because this was filled, so the 5 couldn't be here, so the 5 had to be over here. That was another way to think about that. Now, we also have the 8. The 8 looks in here. 8's in one of these 3. The 8 points in, this 8 looks in, and you probably could have seen if you thought about the virtual buddy thing we were talking about earlier. is that there actually is an 8 right here as well. We can place it, hidden single 8 in the box. Guess what? That filled up this box row, but unfortunately, I guess we can do the 9. Yeah, we have this 9 that looks in. And so 9 ends up here. This 9 points in, this 9 looks in. We do have this 9 helping out. So 9's down here. But a little bit more powerful than just corner marking down here, we can see that this row has only 3 open cells. Well, if it's 3 open cells, we can just fill it in center marks. It's going to be the 3, 6, and 9. And I'm seeing this 3 and this 9 here helping out, but we'll just put 3, 6, 9 and we'll clean it up. So this can't be 9, this can't be 3. Now I'm going to remove the corner marks because what we've learned is more powerful than the corner marks. This is a 3, 6, 9 triple. It's called a naked triple. Now, naked is a word just like hidden. It's kind of the other side of the coin to hidden. Hidden is we're looking at the list of cells in a row, column, or box. Naked is we're looking at one or more cells, and we're just looking at the candidates that remain for those cells, the center marks. So if we just look at the center marks for these 3 cells, what can we learn about this? Well, I'm going to talk about this box rather than the row because the box is more interesting. But because all 3 cells share the same box, we cannot repeat any digits, right? We can't make both of these 3. We can't make both of these 6s, right? There's no way to repeat digits. So there's going to be 3 different digits, 3 unique digits to fill these 3 cells because they're all in the same box. What are those 3 digits going to be? Well, I could just list out all the candidates, and that is the list of digits that are possible in these cells. And if you look, it's only 3, 6, and 9. This can only be 3, 6. This can be 3, 6, 9. This can be 6, 9. So the only digits I said in that list were 3, 6, and 9. The unique digits are 3, 6, 9. Since we can't repeat, that means 3, 6, and 9 in some order will end up in these 3 cells. And those 3 cells are all in the same box, which means these do not care how the 3, 6, 9 resolves. Maybe this is 6, 9, 3. Or maybe this is 3, 6, 9. Or maybe this is 3, 6, 9, like that. We don't know how it resolves, but no matter how it resolves, these 3 cells don't care. They will see a 3, 6, 9 down here. And so these are going to be the 3 digits that remain in the box that aren't the 3, 6, 9. So they're going to be the 1, the 2, and the 4. And you notice now we've covered every digit. And this can't be 4, so that 4 there. We'll take care of that in a second. But notice every digit's covered. 1's going to be in here somewhere, so is 2. 3 is down here in one of these 2. The 4 is in one of these 2. We have the 5 already. 6 is down here. 7, 8, and then 9's down here. So we've basically accounted for every digit in this box, and we've grouped them into these 3 cells, and then these 3 givens. Now, because the 4 is limited to these 2, that is going to point. We want to take care of pointing as soon as we see it so we don't forget. So this 4 points up, this 4 looks up, and so 4 ends up in one of these 3 cells. And this isn't 4 because this 4 here. So one of these 2, actually. Nice. All right. That seems like progress, right? We didn't learn anything like pointing in here, so there's not much more to do with that right now. Like pointing left, right. So this band is basically taken care of for now. There's no more filled box rows to look at. Technically, this is a filled box row, but we already know everything about this box. We're not going to find anything over here that looks in that's helpful. We don't. So we're not worried about that. There are no more rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer, so we can move on to the next band. So this band, we're going to start with this 4, 9. There are no 4 9s. We have this 3, 7. We do have the 3s. So these 3s look in. We look up here for 3s. We see this one. So 3's in one of these 2 cells. No more duplicated digits. Notice how fast we were able to do that. This is a filled box row, though. So we want to look here. No empty cells. 3 is already in the box, but we do have 4, 7, and 9. So I'm going to do them in numerical order. So the 4 ends up in one of these 2 cells. That points in. This 4 looks down, putting a 4 up here. We also have the 7 looking in. This 7 also helps. So 7's down here. That 7 points into this box along with this 7 and these 2 7s. And we get a hidden single 7. So we can place that. Notice I am speeding up a bit because I feel like I've explained all these already. Now I'm just utilizing what I already explained. If we come up with something new, I will explain it. So this 9 looks in here. We have a 9 in one of these 3. This 9 points in along with this 9. We also have these 2 9s helping. So that places a 9 here. Now this is a new situation. Before I place this 9, I am noticing that there's a 4 corner mark in here. But as soon as I place the 9, it can't be a 4 anymore. Now the 4 corner marks were telling us how many cells in this box, and specifically which cells in this box, could be 4. And now this one cannot be. So I want to reevaluate my corner marks, and I see that there's only one 4 corner mark left in the box. So that means it's a hidden, excuse me, a hidden single 4. So I can actually place it. There's only one cell in this box left that can be 4, so I can place it, and that's exactly what my corner marks were telling me. Now, when I place that 4, I'm looking up. Whenever you place a digit, you want to be looking at its row column box to see if that affects any markings that you've made. And we can see that this now cell cannot be 4, so we should remove 4 as a candidate from that cell. And when we do so, we notice that there's only one candidate left, just a 2. So the exhaustive list of digits that this cell can be is 2. Done. And so that's what we call a naked single, because we looked at what this cell could be. We just focused on the cell itself, not on the box, right? There's other places 2 could go in the box, but that doesn't matter because this cell can only be a 2, and so it will be a 2. And that's a naked single because we're just looking at this cell and we're seeing it can't be 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so it has to be a 2. Now, when we place that 2, that does clean up 2 from the rest of the row column box, and that gives us this naked single 8. I'm going to stop talking about naked singles so carefully. This can't be 8, but there's still 2 places for 8 in this box, and this can't be 8 anymore, but that's because we placed the 8 in the box. This cell's now down to 1 or 4, so we can mark that. Now, this 1, 4 that we found is a naked pair. It's not going to be a helpful one at the moment, but it does technically remove 1 and 4 from the rest of this column. And so the remaining digits are going to go in these 3 cells. I'm going to take care of that now since I'm seeing it. This stack is looking really, really juicy, so I'm just going to skip ahead. And I'm going to pencil this stack because we have 3 left here, 3 left here, and 4 left here. And we're going to find some good stuff doing that. So we need, for this column, we have the 1, it's up here, right? We need the 2, we have 3, we have the 4 up here, we have 5, we need 6, we have 7, we need 8, we have 9. And this can't be an 8. So we have 2, 6, 8 remaining in this column. This column is going to be 3, 5, and 6. This cannot be the 3, this can't be the 5. Now, something that happened here that I do want to point out is that we have this 3, 5, 6 triple, right, remaining for this column. And this cell here is sort of the odd one out, right? These 2 share the same box and this one doesn't. So anything that can't go in this cell must end up in here in this box. So the 3, right? In this column, the 3 ends up in one of these 2. So I can actually corner mark that in the box, which sometimes is helpful and sometimes isn't. Now this column, we're going to think about it first because it is 4 remaining, so we might not mark every cell. But the 4 digits that remain are 1, 2, 5, and 8. So 1, 2, 5, 8. I'm seeing this cell can't be 5. So this is 1, 2, 8. These can be any of 1, 2, 5, 8. This can't be 1. So this is 2, 5, 8. All right. And we already know the 1 is down here, but you remember this does the same thing, right? These share the same box. This is sort of the odd one out. The odd one out can't be 1, so the 1 ends up down here, and we already have that marked. All right, so I took care of that stack early just because I thought it would have some juicy info in it. But let's go back to this band. We were scanning this band. We had just gotten this 9 and 4 by looking at this filled box row. We didn't place any more digits here, so we don't need to look at that. We do have this row reduced to only 1, 2, 8, and I'm seeing these 2 cells can't be 8. So actually in this row, we need an 8, and it can only be here. So I'm going to place that 8. That removes this 8 and an 8 corner mark. So now in this box, there's only one place for 8, and I can place it. When we place that 8, we do want to see how it affects the band. We already see that we have all 3 8s in the band. It does affect the column as well, leaving us with 2, 6 here. And it does affect this column, leaving us with 1, 2, 5. So I'm going to mark that as well. Now this is going to be a pair. We need the 1 and the 2, so we're just going to mark that. And when I mark that, every time I center mark a cell, I am scanning to see if there's anybody. So at least I should be. Sometimes I do. When I remember to, I do. It's one of the things that I still, even now, miss sometimes. But I did not miss it this time, which is that when I place this 1, 2, I especially scanned up at the columns to see if there were any matching buddies. And I actually found this 1, 2, 4 triple here. So this is a triple just like this 3, 6, 9, but it's for the column. This column, right? We can't repeat any digits. So these 3 cells, we can't do like 2 1s in them. We can't do 2 2s in them, right? We can't make both of these 4. It's just not going to work. So we need 3 different digits for these 3 cells. This is called a naked triple because let me list out every digit that can go in these cells. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2. What are the unique digits I just listed? Just 1, 2, and 4. That is 3 digits. So because we can't repeat any, we're going to end up with 1, 2, and 4 somewhere in green. Green will have 1, 2, and 4 in it. Guaranteed. Which means the rest of the column cannot be 1, 2, 4. Not allowed. And so it eliminates 1, 2, and 4 from the rest of the column. And so we want to think about what are the 4 digits that remain. There might be something interesting about that. So the 4 digits that remain are 3, 5. So as I say them, I'm looking to see the consequence. So 3 I saw was in these 2 cells, right? 5 I saw could not be here and also could not be here. So actually 5 is reduced to these 2 cells here. So we can mark that. Now those are going to point. We want to take care of that right away. These point up along with this 5. This 5 looks in, and that corner marks 5s here. Now we're going to build up a stack of things we need to return to. We already have quite a stack of things to return to actually, but we're going to continue that because there are certain things I want you to take care of right away if you can handle it mentally. Otherwise, maybe just color it and get back to it. But I've noticed that what we've done here is we found a hidden pair. Let's go over the hidden pair here. What does the 4 corner mark mean in this box? Well, it means that 4 is going to end up here or it's going to end up here. There's going to be a 4 in one of these two. Those are the 2 choices. What about the 5 corner marks? Well, 5 is going to end up here or here. Dumb question. Can this cell be both 4 and 5? It's dumb because the answer is easy. It's not actually that dumb of a question. It can only be one of them. Same with this one. So you might notice this is kind of similar to the naked triple logic we just did, or naked pair logic, but it's a little bit twisted, right? It's not quite the same. And the consequences aren't quite the same as a result. But it is still called a pair, but it's called a hidden pair because we're talking about the cells in this box. There are 2 cells in this box where we have reduced both the 4 and the 5 to. That is 2 unique digits that must go only in the same 2 cells. As a result, if I tried to put any other digit in here other than 4, 5, like let's say I tried to put a 1 here, well, the result is now this cell must be both 4 and 5. And we just said that that's not allowed. It can be one of them, but it can't be both. And as soon as I place, say, a 4 here, now there's nowhere for 5 in the box. As soon as I place a 5 here, now there's nowhere for 4 in the box. So the result of that is that this ends up a 4-5 pair, and we can center mark it instead of corner marking it. And what we've actually done here is we have removed a bunch of digits that otherwise could have been in these cells. And that's what hiddens always do. They remove digits that could have gone in certain cells and leave behind only a pair or a triple or something like that, or a single even, right? And so what are the digits that remain here? Those are the digits that were potentially removed from here, and those are what we want to pay attention to. So the digits that remain are 1, 2, 6, and 9. We want to think about 1s, 2s, 6s, and 9s. Well, we already know that these can't be 6 because the 6 is down here. So if these can't be 6, then these are down to 1, 2, 9, and that's worth marking. This can't be 2, this can't be 9. And these are down to 1, 2, 6, 9. I'm not seeing a specific, oh, this can't be 1 or 2. Remember we have this 1, 2, 4 triple here? So this is down to just 6, 9. So that's quite convenient. So we found this hidden 4-5 pair. That told us that this cell was only down to 6, 9. But really, what we want to think about is how 1, 2, 6, and 9 are no longer here. So we want to pay attention maybe to the column in terms of 1, 2, 6, 9, or their rows. Their rows are often really, really interesting when you start thinking about what digits were removed. 1, 2, 6, 9. So, for example, this cell here maybe might become a hidden single for 1, 2, 6, or 9. Unfortunately, there's already a 6 in the row. So 1, 2, 9, there's already a 2 as well. So 1 and 9 would be the only ones, but they're already here, right? We want to be looking at the consequences of the fact that we've removed 1, 2, 6, 9 from these cells. Not an immediate consequence that I see, but that's okay. It also is indicative of the fact that these can't be 4, 5 anymore, or never could have been in certain cases. So I do want to think about these four cells as well. We're down to 1, 2, 3, 6. This can't be 3, so it's 1, 2, 6. And this can be any of 1, 2, 3, 6. So we're not worried about that. So that's the consequence. Some of the consequence of this 1, 2, 4 is we found this 4, 5 pair, but we didn't finish with this. This column needs 3, 5, 6, 9. This can't be 3 or 9, so this is down to 5, 6. This can be any of 3, 5, 6, 9, so I'm not going to mark it. Oh no, it actually can't be 9. So 3, 5, 6 is fine to mark. I did notice neither of these could be 9, so I did look to see if 9 was restricted, and it's not. So that's what we get out of that. Pretty nice. We were able to mark those. And that was because we placed this 1-2 pair. But there's more consequence to that, which is that these can't be 1-2 either, because we have the 1-2 pair here. So that naked pair removes 1-2 from the rest of the box, because they do share a box. And so the remaining digits here are 3, 5, 6, 8. And we can see that 8 can only go here. These are not 8. Yeah, we have these two 8s looking down, right? So 8 ends up here. Now we do have two 8s looking in here. This 8 looks down, so 8 ends up down here. We'll mark that. As soon as you place a digit, you want to look for that. This is down to 3, 5, 6, but remember, we had this 4, 5 pair, so actually not 5, only 3, 6. Now, again, we're scanning. We're scanning when we place stuff like this. We're scanning up. We see what we have a 3, 6 pair here. That 3, 6 pair says the rest of the column can't be 3 or 6, so this can't be a 6. When I do that, I'm scanning again. I see this 1, 2 pair. I also see that I removed a 6 from here, so this can't be a 6. So either way, there's two ways to look at this. I removed a quarter mark 6, so now 6 can only be here. And actually, if I look now, 9 can only be here. So we have a hidden single 6, hidden single 9. We can also do it in the reverse order using nakeds, because we have a 1, 2 pair here, which removes 1 and 2 from the rest of the box. So this can't be 1, making it only 9. Now this can't be 9, making it only 6. Notice the result's the same. We did it in reverse order, which is interesting. There's always this sort of two-sided coin of hidden versus naked, and you can choose whichever one's more convenient or whatever you see. Now this 9 does make this a naked 6, which makes this a 3 and a 9. So we say that resolved the triple. That also resolved our 3, 6 pair and our 3, 5, 6 triple. That 6 resolves this whole box. We get the 2, 6, 1, and 5. That resolves this box as well. We get the 6, 3, 2, and 5. That resolves this box with the 1, 4, and 2. That resolves this pair, 1 and 2. That resolves this pair, 1 and 2. All right, very nice. This we're finishing this puzzle at this point, and we did a lot of following up, really interesting follow-ups. But technically, we haven't even scanned the stacks yet. But we don't need to scan these stacks anymore. But what I want to do is I want to fill these triples first. So this is 1, 4, 9. And this is 2, 7, 8. And we can clean this up. Specifically, this 2, 7 is interesting. So this is a naked single 8, just found. That's what's handy about marking up these restricted rows columns, is often you do find naked singles. I'm just going to clean all these corner marks up. Okay, so we didn't actually scan this stack. I don't know that we need to, though, because let's just focus on rows, columns, boxes that are most restricted. Especially these rows are all going to be very restricted. That's just going to be a faster way to finish this puzzle. But if you'd like, you could notice some things like these 6s look in, placing the 6. Do we have a buddy for the 4, 7? Not really. We have buddies for the 8s looking up. This 8 looks in. We can place this 8 as well. So however you want to do it, this puzzle is going to finish no matter where you look and how you look. We can also see this 3 looking in and this 3 looking up, giving us the 3 and the 9. That also places this 3. That's not a 9. But ultimately, if we just fill row by row, we'd probably finish as well. So because we're just almost done. This is 1, 4, 5. It's not a 4. This is 1, 4, 5. It's not a 5 or a 4. So that's a 1, 4, 5, 4, 1, 5. We had this 4 and 5. I don't know if that was clear. All right, I cleared the wrong digit. We need to clear the 1 there. This pair is going to be a 2 and a 9. So with this 9 tells us this is 2 and 9. That gives us the 4, 1, and 9, the 7 and the 2. Places the 7. 2 digits left, 1 and 4. They go like that. And we're done. Cool. There was some neat stuff to find in this puzzle. I'm not sure how much of it was necessary because I never actually did scan the stacks. I did scan this stack early, if you recall. So we did some things out of order, but you can see how we build up this stack of follow-ups, and sometimes those follow-ups just lead us to solve the puzzle, which is really neat. It kind of gives a dynamic feel to the puzzle. And I'm sorry if that felt a little bit all over the place, but hopefully I was clear on what I was prioritizing and why I was looking at that now rather than waiting to look at it later. And that's the kind of thing that it's really up to the individual solver. It's up to you what you think works best for you, what you want to practice. Do you want to stick to like, okay, I'm just going to find that later. I don't want to deal with that right now. I have too much in my head. But the more you solve, the more you get used to sort of remembering the important things to follow up on and backtracking and following up on more things. You could even, if you want, pencil and paper, note, hey, I want to look at that later. There's no reason you couldn't. There's no such thing as cheating in Sudoku, especially notating things that you want to remember is definitely not cheating. So yeah, cool. Hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, then why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.